My name is Mike Stoelting, and I'm here today to share an experience that took place within my life that had a major impact, and it involves two callings. It all started in 1969. Uncle Sam tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I need you." He told me that he would provide me with clothing and food and shelter and medical attention if I needed it, and I thought that sounded like a pretty good deal. And I showed up for service. So I'm at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and I'm given my MOS, what I'm going to be doing for the next 2 years. And it simply said, I showed it to my sergeant. I said, "What is this?" And he said, "You're going to be a grunt." I said, "Oh, grunt." Didn't know what grunt was, but from Fort Knox, then I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana. And at the end of that time, I was given a 30-day furlough. During that 30 days, I got myself married. And so end of that, I was in Nam. We flew into Saigon. And from there, we were transported to Long Binh. And that was our rear base. Never saw it very much because as a grunt, as now I'm finding out what a grunt soldier is. We were in the field. We were in the jungles. I guess I'm about 7 or 8 months into my 12-month tour, and I'd already been hospital once, had surgery. But about 7 months after I was released from the hospital the first time for field duty, my company had already been moved to Cambodia. They needed our presence there. I was with the 199th Light Infantry Brigade. So they flew me there. I reunited with my company and my platoon and my squad. And about a week later, we were sent out on maneuvers. It was then that we realized that things was not going well. We found out what the Red Army could do and how strong they were. We were outmanned and outgunned, and about three days we were running out of ammo. We were out of supplies. We could not order airstrikes. The enemy was that close. We were surrounded, and a decision was made that we were either going to fight to the end or we was going to surrender the next morning. Well, that's when my past began to pay off. I'd been brought up in the church. I cried out to God. I repented. I told him how sorry I was for living for the devil instead of living for him. And God did what no one else can do. And it was dark of the night. Let me tell you, there were other men who was on their knees. They were making peace with God. It was at that moment that there was a light that shone above me and came down and came into me. It was not a physical light, but it was the Spirit of God. And I tell you, there was a peace like certainly cannot explain. But I felt as safe in all of that was going on around us. I knew I was in the arms of Jesus. And whatever would happen, it was going to be okay, because I would be with God, and God would be with me. Now, let me tell you, it didn't take me long to get right with God. It taught me a lesson that if you're desperate for God, God will be there. Most of the time, I don't think we're desperate enough, but I was that night. Found God, saved me, and I got to thinking about that. I thought, well, God answered my prayer. I cried out in desperation for salvation, and God saved me. Maybe I could make another request. And so I began to say, oh God, I know I don't deserve it, but if there's any way possible that you could spare us, I'll do anything that you would ever ask me to do. You can count on me, Lord. I'll keep my promise. Nothing really happened after that point other than within about an hour and a half, the word began to come down, filter down. A lieutenant had made a decision. They had been looking at the maps and looking at the terrain to see if there was any way possible that we might be able to move through without being detected by the enemy. Now remember, they were so close to us that we couldn't even order an airstrike because we would be getting hit the same as the enemy would be getting hit. It was treacherous. The terrain was horribly bad, but it was worth a try. They told us to leave our rucksacks, everything behind. Only thing that we was allowed to take would be our ammo, firearm, and a canteen of water. And we was going to go through the night. Now that we'd never done that, moved that far in the night. It was triple canopy jungle, very difficult in the daytime, let alone doing it at night. We got in single file, a whole platoon. It's very noisy moving through the jungle, a platoon of men. No sooner had we got in lined up, we had to hold on to each other, to the one in front of us, to know where we were going. It began to rain. That's a bittersweet moment. Bitter because it makes the traveling even more treacherous up the slopes that we were going to have to travel through triple canopy jungle. But at the same time, it softened everything. And it was as if God had put feathers on our feet. We was able to move without being detected. We walked all night. And it was morning that found us safe. We was able to get to an LZ where they ordered a pickup, and that was the longest night that I ever spent, but it was the best because of what God did in my heart. It was not just short of a miracle, it was a full-blown miracle because no one thought it was possible. God spared us. We had fatalities. We'd already been shot up pretty bad. We had wounded with us. We had the dead with us, and we all got out. And so now it's no longer 1969. It's about 1974. I'm back home. All that I'm thinking is behind me. Wife and I, we have a little girl. We're going to church. Just built a new home. Got a decent job. Everything's looking good. And we decided to go to revival. A lot of revivals in those days, and we went to revival. And it was there during that revival that God tapped me on the shoulder. And He reminded me of a promise that I had made one dark night. I kept my promise. So I look back upon that now, and it's been 4 churches God has blessed us, allowed us to be in, to pastor. And that's over a span of 41 years. And there's been a lot of challenges in those 41 years, but God has so beautifully proven Himself. He definitely became a way maker back there in Nam, providing a way of escape. But also over these 41 years, every challenge that came, God always made a way, provided, met our needs way beyond what we feel like that we have deserved. 41 years and then 4 years as an assistant district superintendent. And now here I am, and we're attending Bethel. Recently, Dr. Prince has shared 4 points that I don't think I will forget, and they were very simple, and they applied to my life. He said, God picks, God gives, we submit, and we do. And I thought, that's exactly what God has done within my life. God picked me out when I thought I was a nobody. He equipped me. He gave me what I needed to do something that was beyond my imagination. All I had to do was submit to Him and go out and do His will. And it's been beautiful. God has provided, met our needs. I thank Him every day for His goodness to me.